Hey, it's Dr. Berg again. In this video, we're going to talk about a new topic, GMO. Basically, I have a client here who's a farmer who actually knows a lot about it because on his farm he actually did soy and corn GMO. So I'm glad that you're here, and I just have some questions. Like you've done it, so you've been in that area and you're looking to transition into organic farming,
Yeah.
and you know a lot about it. So the first question is, are there a lot of farmers in the Midwest, because you're from Illinois, doing GMO?
Yeah, definitely. I would say probably in my area, and I'll be conservative, but at least 75% is probably higher than that.
Wow.
The vast majority.
And don't mind the microphone because our other mic is broken, so we're just going to go back and forth.
Sorry, you can
Um,
hold it. I'll just lean in.
Okay, good. And then, so what's the motivation? I know it's probably, I'm not saying laziness, but is it a little bit more work to do organic?
Yeah, definitely more work. You can cover a larger area, a higher volume of acres doing the commercial, and so there is more work involved because it's more of a mechanical approach with the organics.
Wow. Now, GMO is genetically modified organisms where they will take a plant and they'll take they could take a virus from something or an animal gene and splice them together. I'm not sure exactly what they do with the corn or the soy, but I do know that when they modify it, it becomes resistant to an herbicide. So corn is now resistant. And they also modify it for another reason too. I think um, it almost acts as a certain pesticide, doesn't it? Corn?
Yeah, definitely. As far as I'm aware, there's corn borer and rootworm, which the species actually has to feed on the plant, but when it does eat the plant, it kills the insect. So
But there's no harm to humans. No, I'm just kidding. So what about if you use genetically modified corn, you're able to use Roundup Ready or that spray, and that is a weed killer. And so the plant thrives better, right? And that's what they do. They spray it.
yeah.
Um, but what about the soil itself? Tell me a little bit about, do you put a lot of minerals in? What kind of minerals do you put back in the soil?
Uh, we focus solely on N, P, and K, so nitrogen, potassium, and phosphorus.
Okay.
But that's pretty much the limitation there.
Wow. So we don't really, because I've never farmed, but they don't really put all the minerals back in, right? Like all the trace minerals. You have like 94 minerals. They don't put those back in?
No, just those three is all we focus on in commercial.
Wow. So like iodine, you're just going to, I mean, like people eat that food, they're just going to be deficient in iodine, zinc, selenium, boron, manganese, all these things. Man, that's amazing. So that's why you need, you need to enhance. Like people say, well, you don't really need vitamins. Well, you're going to have to enhance something. So the other question I have is, so they're doing all the soy out of the viewpoint that our world is starving, right? And tell us just an inside scoop of what you're seeing, what they're really using the corn for.
So as far as my research has gone, I've found that the vast majority of corn is used in either ethanol production or livestock production, like in the large confinement type operations.
So basically using it to feed animals.
Yeah.
Yeah. Or ethanol.
Or ethanol.
What's your viewpoint on ethanol?
Uh, I don't know all the ins and outs of it, but basically, from what I understand, it takes so much more energy to produce a lot less energy as an end product with the fuels. And something else that's also an issue in my mind is that we use an annual plant, so we have to plant it every year to get these fuels when there's a lot of other perennials that have been proven they produce way more ethanol per unit of product, but also like per acre as well.
What's a perennial and annual?
So an annual has to be planted every year. Its life cycle is a year long, and a perennial comes back every year, like say a grass in your yard comes back. Yeah.
Wow. So So now, what about being subsidized? Tell me about what happens with that. Is corn subsidized?
Yeah, the corn and soybeans both are. They have programs, and I can't tell you the ins and outs. I participated in them, but I was in a partnership with brothers, and I didn't actually take care of that part. But yeah, there is subsidies to raise both corn and soybeans.
Okay. And then what about soy? Is that also used to feed the livestock? Is that what they use it for?
Uh, to my knowledge, that yeah, there is quite a bit there. In my research, I found that they use it a lot in fillers in human consumption. So we we don't actually see that on the labels, as far as I can tell. But yeah, so a lot of it is also animal consumption.
It's all over it's basically in almost every food, like in the certain aisles in the grocery store. And then as they don't label it, of course, because they don't want you to know that it's GMO, but everyone knows it's GMO.
Yeah.
Um,
It costs so little to produce.
right, it's
Yeah.
cheap, isn't it?
Yeah. Which, to my understanding, that's a big reason why they use it for a filler, is because we have so much of it, which makes me question: are we overproducing because they're trying to find places to put all this stuff?
It's kind of a racket.
Yeah.
And then they have this thing called high fructose corn syrup,
Right.
which is not even sweet. It's actually a filler. And then you just drink your soda, you know.
Yeah.
Amazing. Okay, so now what about with Roundup Ready or whatever the chemicals that you spray? Is how often do you have to spray the ground first and then the plant, or how does it work?
So with the Roundup specifically, you'll spray the plant, so it's a contact killer.
Okay.
So ideally, they only want to spray one time, so that you don't have to make two trips and across the field and keep your costs down. But there's quite a bit of issues in our area with resistance to that chemical because of its overuse and maybe not responsible use. But there's weeds now that it won't even kill. They've built up a resistance completely to it. So
Because you have the soil, which it has this microflora, all this bacteria that's supposed to be there. I'm sure that's probably killed.
yeah.
So you're going to get all these, just like in your body, if you have antibiotics, you're going to get yeast infections and fungal infections. I could imagine you're going to get that with this corn and soy. How about the seeds? Like, you have to buy the seeds, and can you keep using them, use your own seeds and plant it over and over, or how does it work?
No, logic would tell you that you can save back seeds and plant them the next year. But so you sign what they call a technology agreement, and so at that point, you cannot save back any of the seed that you produce from the original seed. So yeah, you buy seed every year.
Wow. Interesting. You have a nice little connection with that. Does GMO produce more crop than organic or non-GMO?
That's a good question. So basically, in my research, with some red flags popping up and questioning what I'm doing and the reasons and the effects, we have ended up raising some more non-GMO crops, which to my understanding is a lot more human consumption versus animals and ethanol. But as far as the yields go, we have seen the same yields, if not better, compared to non-GMO. So no, in our experience, there's definitely not an advantage in yield.
Wow. Interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah. Wow, it just makes you start thinking things completely differently.
Yeah.
And the other question that I have is that, so we have a combination of the soil that gets destroyed, and then you have the farmer that's kind of almost like they're stuck in a little bit of a rut, right? Where they're in this machine that they're basically having to kind of a little bit forced to promote that, and then, can you tell me a little bit about that?
Yeah. No, I think it definitely seems like a hamster wheel in a sense. So you can't save back seed, which makes no sense. And it's become widely accepted, surprisingly enough. But you can't save back seeds. You sell to your local elevator, and I guess they're more of a middleman. But as far as where the product goes, like, you don't sell to the end user, so you don't really have that control as far as selling. You don't even really feel like it's yours, because you're signing away control, I guess, like, because you can't replant the product, you can't save back. Um,
Well, I just see this as stuck between a rock and a hard place, because
yeah,
it's like you don't have the freedom to plant and sell who you want to. You're like just a middleman.
yeah,
So you don't really see what's going on. So, wow, that's interesting. Well, thank you very much for that data.
yes, yeah.
All right, cool.